In 1851, Charles Perkins, an independently wealthy American artist and musician and a member of the Handel and Hadyn Society, traveled by ship from Boston to Europe. While in Rome, he met the American sculptor Thomas Crawford. The result of that meeting? A sculpture of Beethoven for the Boston Music Hall, home of the Handel and Hadyn Society. This larger-than-life sculpture of Beethoven holding music with the opening phrase of his Ode to Joy now resides at Boston's New England Conservatory of Music, but it remains a significant symbol of a long and celebrated history between the Handel and Hadyn Society and the music of Beethoven. The Handel and Hadyn Society's relationship with Beethoven's music began in 1820, 7 years before the composer's death. For an organization that had established its reputation with Handel's Hallelujah Chorus, it seems fitting that the first music by Beethoven that they performed was the Hallelujah Chorus from his oratorio, Christ on the Mount of Olives. It would be another 36 years before the sculpture would be placed on the stage of Boston Music Hall. During that time, the Handel and Hadyn Society was expanding its musical horizons, including more performances of Beethoven's music. In fact, the Handel and Hadyn Society gave 17 performances of Beethoven's music before singing in the Boston premiere of the Ninth Symphony on February 5, 1853, and the following night, the American premiere of Beethoven's Engedi, an adaptation of Christ on the Mount of Olives that retains the composer's music but replaces the original libretto with a new English text. By 1854, when Perkins finalized the purchase of the Beethoven Statue, Crawford was already an accomplished artist. But his most famous works, including the Statue of Freedom that sits atop the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C., were yet to be commissioned. For the Beethoven statue, Crawford waived his fee, and Perkins assumed all other costs, from casting the statue in Munich to setting it on the Boston Music Hall stage. Standing among the musicians and looking out over the audience, the statue would oversee almost half a century of performances, beginning with its dedication concert in 1856, when Beethoven's Choral Fantasy was performed with Perkins himself as the piano soloist. The arrival of the sculpture would mark a new era for the Handel and Hadyn Society and Beethoven's music, starting with performances of 2 symphonies, numbers 3 and 7, for its 50th anniversary festival. The Handel and Hadyn Society featured at least one Beethoven work in each of its 6 triennial music festivals, which were held between 1868 and 1883. In 1870, the statue was adorned with garlands for the Boston Beethoven Centennial, a week-long series of concerts marking the 100th anniversary of the composer's birth. The programs included the Hallelujah Chorus from Christ on the Mount of Olives, and culminated in a performance of the Ninth Symphony by the Handel and Hadyn Society and the Harvard Musical Association. That same year, 546 members of the Handel and Hadyn Society Chorus sang the Ninth Symphony at the New York City Beethoven Festival. Three years later, they returned to New York for another performance of Beethoven's Ninth, conducted by Theodore Thomas. The Beethoven statue would oversee many significant performances, including the February 7, 1892 world premiere of Amy Beach's Mass in E-flat, the first work by a woman composer performed by the Handel and Hadyn Society. After Perkins' death in 1886, the statue was given to the Handel and Hadyn Society, but remained in Boston Music Hall until an urban planning proposal for new roads and expanded public transportation routes called for the destruction of the hall. Although these plans never materialized and Boston Music Hall still stands today as the Orpheum Theater, plans were made to erect a new concert hall, Boston Symphony Hall, and move the Beethoven statue. On July 28, 1899, at a cost of $100, the statue was moved to the Boston Public Library. Then finally, in 1903, the statue came to its present home in the Huntington Avenue foyer of the New England Conservatory's Jordan Hall, which opened that same year. The Handel and Hadyn Society officially donated Crawford's statue to the conservatory in 1951. For a choral society, such as Handel and Hadyn, Beethoven offered a limited but rich source of music. But as H&H expanded its orchestral repertoire in the second half of the 19th century, Beethoven was a logical choice, especially with Crawford's statue watching over every performance. More recently, with the change to period instruments, the organization has performed the Mass in C, numerous concertos and overtures, plus all the Beethoven symphonies, including a free outdoor concert of the Ninth Symphony in Copley Square in July 2015 that was the centerpiece of the Handel and Hadyn Society's bicentennial celebration. All part of 200 years of Beethoven since that first performance in 1820.